All right, what's going on, y'all? Now, if you're a Golovkin extreme, or should I call you a psychotic fan, you're not going to like this video. So, my suggestion to you is to go ahead and turn off this channel and go find another one. Now, if you're a rational, insane Golovkin fan, then you're not going to have a problem of what I'm about to say here. Now, it's very amusing to see how this whole thing is unfolding and unraveled the last few days. You know, you have these ardent and crazed Golovkin supporters are going out and trying to really strike a PR campaign to justify this fight that got announced a few days ago with Kell Brook. You know, it's kind of I find it very hypocritical that they're the same fanatics who went out and ridiculed and crapped on Canelo Alvarez for fighting Amir Khan. This didn't happen not too long ago, a few months ago. Ridiculed and crapped on Canelo Alvarez for fighting Amir Khan. Ridiculed and ripped Bernard Hopkins for fighting Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad, and Simon Brown. Ripped and ridiculed Marvin Hagler for fighting Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, and Roberto Duran. Completely degraded them because they fought welterweights. It was the same group of people who went out and said that middleweights have no business fighting welterweights. Bernard Hopkins gets no credit for his middleweight run because he fought blown up welterweights, which is his best wins on his record. And Marvin Hagler gets no credit for his middleweight legacy because he fought blown up welterweights or blown up lightweight, who, by the way, that lightweight could beat anybody that Golovkin has beaten in the middleweight division right now. He could beat Daniel Gill at this point, and that's Roberto Duran. I'm not just Daniel Gill. I'm sorry, Danny Jacobs and the Arizlandi Laras and you name it. He could beat any of those 154 pound and 160 pound guys of today. Roberto Duran. Okay, it's quite amusing to see you guys unfolded because where do I start? Gennady Golovkin is not above criticism, and he deserves to be criticized for what he put himself through, okay? Because he, along with his management, Tom Loeffner and K2, who ran a PR campaign, who ridiculed ridiculed Canelo Alvarez in public for taking the Amir Khan fight. And the reason why they did it is because they wanted to put more pressure on it. It was a strategic move, I should say, to put pressure on Canelo Alvarez to take the fight with Gennady Golovkin. Okay, fine. I get that. But Golovkin himself, and this is his own words, not his management talking, his own words said that what Canelo did was very disrespectful for the sport, weight classes not being respected, and middleweights have no business fighting welterweights. That's what he said on an interview with Power 106 out here in LA. All right, in a separate interview, he said that, when he was asked about Kell Brook, the possibility of fighting Kell Brook, when Kell Brook called him out, which most of you took as a grain of salt, he said that Kell Brook was too small for him. He was too small for him. I'm no interest in fighting Kell Brook. I'm gonna fight the middleweights champions. I want to focus on cleaning out and unifying the 160 pound division. That's what he said. Okay. So I find that also hypocritical before he announced the Kell Brook fight, because Gennady had even said on many occasions that he wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. He was pursuing fights. Yeah, small guys. He wanted those fights. Yeah, you guys can dismiss that all you want to, but it's all fact. It's on record. That's what the fights that he wanted. Okay? So, when you make statements like that, when you ridiculed your rival for making a business move, quote unquote, for fighting a welterweight, and you turn around and do the same thing with Kell Brook, you deserve to be ridiculed for that. It's a double standard. It's called hypocrisy. And, this PR campaign that Kell Brook is a big welterweight. So that definitely makes this fight great. Oh, okay. So it's funny because I challenged one individual on this question, because he's on this PR campaign as well. So he's saying that this is going to be a great matchup because they're essentially the same size, which we all know and expected it to be. But the question is, how do you see? I asked this individual, break this down, stylistically. How do you see Kell Brook winning this fight, and how do you see Gennady Golovkin winning this fight? He's saying that this fight won't be competitive. And I say, okay, so you just said that the fight is a great matchup because they're the same size. But yet you're saying that the fight is not going to be competitive. What does that mean? And he says, well, the fight's going to be competitive, but it's a great matchup. Now you see what we're dealing with here with this, stupidity. I can't even pronounce the word. This idiocy over here in the YTBC. This whole online platform. Do you see this stupidity that we have to deal with? Jesus Christ, I'm just looking for consistency with you guys. That's all I'm asking is consistency. I have to repeat myself. If you're going to ridicule Hopkins and Hagler and Canelo for fighting small guys, you have to do the same with Gennady Golovkin. This is no different. And then there's other people out there saying that, well, the O2 Arena just sold out, so that justifies this as a very good fight. No, it does not, okay? That's a stupid argument to make, and I'm going to tell you why. There have been plenty of bouts in the past that sold out in minutes, and they turned out to be crap fights. Look at the Floyd Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao fight. That sold out in a matter of minutes. It broke the record at gate sales. It turned out to be a very disastrous and terrible fight, okay? Look at Vladimir Klitschko when he was reigning as the heavyweight champion. He sold out everywhere in Europe, particularly in Germany. And most of his fights, half of his fights, I should say, turned out to be terrible, particularly with Alex Leopold and Alexander Povetkin. Those turned out to be very terrible fights. So using that, they sold out in the O2 Arena with the Kell Brook and Gennady Golovkin fight as a way to justify this is very, very laughable and it's very stupid. I'm sorry. I'm just being blunt. It's stupid. Okay? Now, let me go into further why Gennady Golovkin deserves to be, I say deserves. He's not above criticism. Let me tell you why. Gennady Golovkin rose to prominence, I'll say roughly around at the end of 2013 and going into 2014. Okay? He started to become a hot commodity in the middleweight division. He's starting to give us, knockouts, excitement in his fights. That's all, fans like myself been craving for. And outside the ring, Gennady Golovkin is respected. I mean, this guy is very likable. He's humbled. He's a family man. He has the highest regard and respect for the sport. And he doesn't disrespect fighters that came before him. So there's not too much you can't hate the guy on a personal level. And believe me, when I first opened up my channel, I was one of the very few guys who defended Golovkin. I defended him against guys who were being way too harsh on their criticism on him. I say, hey, look, listen, he's giving us good, not good fights. I'm sorry. He's giving us knockouts, that we all pay to see. He's giving us excitement. So he's giving us our money's worth. Okay. He will be fighting better competition because I thought in my mind, that's what he wanted. He wanted to be great. He wanted to strive for that competition. He wanted to challenge himself. That's what I thought. Okay. That's what I thought. But taking into account the statements that he and his management were making when they were having trouble getting fights at 160, you have to look outside your division, which I have no problem with. They had made this shoot a challenge that they'll fight anybody from 154 to 175. This is what they said. And then all of a sudden it got scaled down to 154 to 168. And then it got scaled to, we'll only take certain fights at 154 through 168. And then it got scaled to, we'll focus on cleaning out the 160 division first. And then we'll consider to move up and move down the way and figure out what will be you see the inconsistencies and the misstatements and the double, misquotes. It's just, this is where you can argue for the room of criticism and critique here. Because how can you sit there and say that you're trying to strive for greatness and yet you're being selective on who you want to fight? Gennady Golovkin is no exception to the rule here. He's acting like a businessman, just like how Floyd Mayweather acted like a businessman, which we all know. How Sugar Ray Leonard acted like a businessman towards the latter stages of his career. How all these other up-and-coming, undefeated young fighters are acting like businessmen. As if that, I'm the A side, I'm defeated, so I get to choose who I want to fight and get the highest reward with the lowest risk. This is exactly what Golovkin and his team are doing. Exactly. Okay? Again, this is where it opens up room for criticism and honest critique, constructively. You ardent Golovkin craze supporters cannot have this double standard where you want to go around, you want to crap and ridicule all-time great fighters like Marvin Hagler, Bernard Hopkins, and and Sugar Ray Robinson, and most recently Harry Greb, and then not willing to accept the criticism and honest critique of Gennady Golovkin's career and his resume. You cannot have it both ways. Okay? If I wanted to, I could break down Gennady Golovkin's career and I could make it look so bad than what it is already. I could do that if I want to. But I won't do that as of yet because I have respect for Gennady Golovkin to this degree, but you guys are really, really, really forcing me to do this. You really are pushing me to that point. Okay? Because I will break it down and I will tear it to pieces. I will do that. Now, going back to where he had made the statement when Golovkin had said that Kell Brook was too small for him, I'm not focused on fighting a small guy, unlike Canelo, which he ridiculed for doing. I find it hypocritical for him to say that, even long before he announced the Kell Brook fight. Why? Because he was pursuing fights with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. And when he was pursuing a fight with Floyd Mayweather, you guys had no problem with that. You had no problem with him going after a small guy like Floyd Mayweather because you guys have so much contempt for Floyd. Okay? I get that. You have so much contempt for him. All right? So, and then at the same time, you turn around and said that Gennady Golovkin don't fight small guys. Well, I mean, he has in his career. If you look at his resume, he has fought a few guys who were coming from 154. He fought Kasi Uma, who was a 154 champion. He fought Matthew Macklin, who he started his career at 154, and he's also fought who was the other 154 guy that he fought coming up? So you have Kasi Uma, you have Matthew Macklin, and you have Gabe Rosado. There you go, Gabe Rosado. So he's no stranger fighting guys at 154. Fighting guys who are coming up from smaller weight classes such as the 154-pound division. Okay? And that's what he's been pursuing. Fight with big name small guys, which you guys have no problem with. So, speaking of Floyd, when Floyd came out and said that, I'll make easy work of Golovkin, you guys came out in swarms and said that, well, Floyd, you told him straight up, stop being a bitch. Come out of retirement, go up to 160 and fight Golovkin. That's what you told him to. But when Erislandy Lara calls him out and answers the challenge of that call out that Golovkin's management made, you're saying that, Lara is not a good fight. He didn't bring no money to the table. Lara hasn't proven anything. He needs to move up to 160 and take a fight first, and then we'll consider a fight with Golovkin. Well, that's funny because you're not telling Floyd to do that. You're not telling him to do that. Kell Brook is going from 147 to 160. He hasn't taken a fight at 160. By that matter, he hasn't proven himself at 147 quite yet. Yes, he picked up a belt against Sean Porter, but other than that, he hasn't had big fights after the Sean Porter fight. But you seem to have no problem with Kell Brook going from 147 to 160, but yet you have a problem with Erislandy Lara, who actually wants to fight, who wants to challenge. You know what? To me, that's an indication that you guys have no confidence in Gennady Golovkin in beating Erislandy Lara, while some, most like myself, who actually wants to see the fight, believe Golovkin can actually win that fight. But it'll be a very, very tough fight. And you don't want to see Golovkin get challenged. That's the bottom line. You don't want to see him get challenged. You want to see him stay undefeated with a padded record and then continue to propagate him as the monster that he really isn't. Okay? Now, I'm hearing this, that Gennady Golovkin, the reason why he's the greatest middleweight of all time because he's being ducked. Okay. So if you're going to make that argument, then Charlie Burley should be considered the greatest of all time. Lloyd Marshall should be considered the greatest of all time. Barbados Joe Wilcox should be considered the greatest of all time. Harry Greb should be considered the greatest of all time. Ezra Charles should be considered the greatest of all time. Aaron Chase should be, come on, I can go on and on and on. The Black Murderers Rose members. Those guys were being ducked in a much more severe situation than Gennady Golovkin. To say that Gennady Golovkin is the greatest of all time just because he's being ducked in this current crop of era of middleweights, that is an insult and a slap in the face of those other fighters who had to go through very harsh conditions of getting fights in their careers. Now, the reason why those fighters like Ezra Charles and Charlie Burley and Barbados Wilcox have Hall of Fame careers is because they took on dangerous fights. While they were being ducked by all those other heap of fighters, including some heavyweights, they still moved up in weight and found challenges and took on dangerous fights. That's what they did. They didn't complain and sit in one division and complain about being ducked and being very, and then turn around and be very selective on who they want to fight and chase a smaller guy. They didn't do that. So, again, Gennady is a good guy. Person, I like him as a fighter. But again, he's not above criticism. And one of the uploaders said it best. So I think it was Northwest Boxing. Shout out to him, by the way. Gennady had options. Okay, when when Eubank offer fell through, when Billy Joe Saunders didn't want to fight him, when Danny Jacobs didn't want to fight him, when Canelo vacated his belt, didn't want to fight him, he had no choice but to look outside his division, which is understandable. You had no choice. But he did not have to go after a welterweight. He didn't have to do that. He had options to fight a 154-pound fighter, Erislan Lara, J. Rock Williams. He had options to fight the 168-pound guys. You had James DeGale there. You had the Durrell brothers, Andre and Anthony. Yes, James DeGale has a fight coming up, but a deal could have been worked out with DeGale. Could have forego his shot at a unification bout against Badr Jack. He could have delayed that fight just to take a fight with Golovkin, and then he could proceed with that. That has been done before. It could have been done. But Golovkin and his team opted not to do that. Now they're trying to run on this pathetic PR campaign to propagate Kell Brook as a large welterweight. Wow. And other guys are saying, well, Kell Brook is a large welterweight. He's drained himself to make 147. So in reality, he's a 154-pound guy. Well, guess what? Felix Trinidad was the same situation. Felix Trinidad was killing himself to make 147 during the latter stages of his run as an IBF champion. Okay? Let me give you an example. He was going to fight Terry Norris for the 154-pound unified titles at 154. For various reasons, Terry Norris didn't take the fight. Okay? So Troy Waterston, who Terry Norris knocked out, by the way, stopped in that 3-round war, which actually is a Hagler-Hearns type of fight. Take a look at it. All right? Felix Trinidad knocked him out, and then he took three more fights at 147, including his unification bout with Oscar De La Hoya. And then after the Oscar De La Hoya fight, he became a full 154-pound fighter, which he openly admitted that he was killing himself to make 147. So, amidst that, you still discredit Hopkins for fighting him. You still discredit Hopkins for fighting Trinidad, who, by the way, knocked out a full-fledged middleweight, which is William Joppy, before he fought Hopkins, went into that fight as a favorite. So that is a dumbass argument to use that Kell Brook is a naturally 154-pound guy, so that perfectly makes sense for the fight to be made. And this crap about Erislan Lara doesn't bring any money. I mean, may I remind you that Erislan Lara actually did more pay-per-view buys than Gennady Golovkin? Yeah, he did. So the numbers don't lie. That's the first time I have to use that terminology, but numbers don't lie. That's a fact. So, needless to say, Gennady is he's in a lose-lose situation, as Northwest have pointed out. Northwest said it at best. Win, lose, or draw, Gennady Golovkin is going to receive backlash for this fight. He'll receive much more backlash if he loses this fight or if he looks bad in this fight despite a winning effort. Because he took on a welterweight while at the same time he could have fought other 154-pound guys. He could have fought another middleweight by the name Gertzky, which some people are discrediting. He could have fought him. And he could have fought a 168-pound guy. He didn't have to go after a welterweight guy. So, in closing, you Golovkin crazed supporters and fanatics and deranged, psychotic fan base, you have to understand that no fighter is above criticism, including Gennady Golovkin. You guys are being hypocrites when you're going around and you're criticizing other fighters and you want to critique their resumes and their careers. Okay, that's your prerogative. But people like myself, the boxing librarian, fight critic, blood boxing, I can go on and on and on. We have every right to criticize Golovkin if you're going to make a proclamation, a claim that he's the greatest middleweight of all time. This is where I have to defend the all-time greats in that matter. Okay? And let's be all truthful here. And I can say this. Golovkin's resume is very, very subpar and very, very obscure. I should say, not saying obscure, I'm sorry. It's very, very abysmal compared to all the other all-time greats. Their level of opposition is much better quality than Golovkin. Better. And to add fuel to the fire, Golovkin only won one belt in an actual fight. Two of those three belts that he has were given to him. Now, when I assess that type of critique, you're going to call me a hater. You're going to call me a black tar, which is an AKA, another acronym for, another meaning for the word NIGGER. So with that said, if you can't accept criticism, then you guys be on here to debate anything about boxing, point blank. And be honest with you, you guys have no boxing knowledge whatsoever. I'm out. Peace.